Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Round the Horn. My name is Lee. Here's a song by our special guest today, Ben Runyan. Ben's from the band City Rain and a true Philadelphia Phillies fan. Hello, Ben. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me, Lee.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing because most of the people that we've already talked to, mostly from North Jersey or New York.
Okay, so Mets or Yankees fan?
Yankees, right.
Right.
Now, we had to bring you on.
Of course.
As
to represent the Philadelphia, South Jersey area.
That's right. That's right. Got to have some balance there.
That's right.
So give us a little idea. We've already told people that you're part of the band City Rain. You got
Correct.
a song that we played on Radio Jersey. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I mean, I'm a born and raised Philadelphian. I'm the first of my ilk in my family. The rest of my family's from the South, so from Kentucky. So I'm the first Yankee in my family. But I consider myself strongly a Philadelphian. I'm a huge Philadelphia sports fan. I'm a teacher. I teach at Drexel University, Rowan University. I teach music production. That's been my background for the past 12 years or so. I went to Temple University for my undergrad, and I've just been working on music and teaching music production more specifically ever since. But I would say I wouldn't say I'm a 4 for 4 quite. I'm Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, and I'm not a huge hockey fan, but I am the biggest Eagles fan you'll ever meet, and I've been going to Phillies games. And unfortunately, my first sports memory is the 1993 Philadelphia Phillies season, so that'll give you a little idea of my frame of reference for sports.
Great. So we always want to sort of ask some basic questions of all.
Sure.
Yes. Did you play baseball when you were a youngster?
I did. Yeah, I played up until I was about 12 or 13 in Little League. I played shortstop and I played left field. And then they would put me in as pitcher and I would end up beaming all the kids. And I would just ask them to take me out. They're like, no, you're doing great. I'm like, I don't think I'm doing great. I think I might have permanently injured Johnny. But once there was breaking balls involved, I realized I don't know if I could really hack it. Once those two seamers started coming up in on my neck, I was like, I don't know if I have what it takes for this stuff, but I'm an avid fan, and golf is my sport. Golf is something I actually continue to play.
Okay. When did you start playing music?
It's funny. I was a late bloomer on that because I was never a great instrumentalist. I was more in the choir and singing in school and in church and that kind of stuff. And that was my entry point to music. Once I got to college, I started fiddling around with stuff on the computer, and that's when I realized I had an ear for production and mixing and all that kind of stuff. And so I took a bunch of classes, as many classes as I could at school, but unlike Stella, for instance, they didn't really have like music industry programs at this point. And if that had existed, that's what I would have done, but that just didn't exist. So I took 1 or 2 classes in the broadcast, telecom, mass media. So I was more in kind of your world. I was learning radio and video production and stuff like that. And sports radio has always been like a number one big passion of mine. I call in to 94 WIP and 97.5. So people don't know that, but I call in. I don't really tell anyone, but I call in and argue with them. So.
Yeah, Philly has some great sports radio there.
It sure does.
So
for sure.
Growing up as a Phillies fan, who was your favorite player? My
favorite player growing up was John Kruk, for sure, for obvious reasons, just because he was just this crusty kind of like, he didn't even really look like an athlete. He the pine tar on his helmet, he just, not super great looking, but I thought that kind of represented the Philly ethos. But I mean, I grew up with the 93 Phillies. So, Mariano Duncan, Kruk, Eisenreich, Milt Thompson, you need Tommy Green, all those guys.
Well, I have a story to tell you about John Kruk.
Oh, please.
I spent some time in the minors in West Virginia.
I didn't know that.
John's from. So the story was going around that, and I guess it happened actually in Philadelphia, that a female reporter was in the locker room for the first time. And So she asked John, how do you stay in shape as a ball player,
Oh, I think I know this.
as an athlete?
I think I know this story. Yeah.
And he says, ma'am, I ain't no
Lady.
athlete. I'm a ball player.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. An important
That's a
distinction.
funny thing. And
Yeah.
you know, there were still stories about John Kruk down in West Virginia, you know, that he was the greatest thing that ever came out of West Virginia.
That's
And
fantastic.
hearing him on TV nowadays, because you know he picks no bones. He is
Well, it's
really,
funny. I mean, I could have never imagined growing up that he would have turned into such a well-spoken analyst. He's a smart guy. He's not a,
very much, yes.
he's a very bright guy, but it seems like in his career, at least as a baseball player, he downplayed that a lot because his commentary is excellent.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I have another quick story to tell you.
Yeah.
Probably about another one of your favorites, the Bull.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, I was getting some quotes at my house to get some French drains put in the basement. So I had a little office down there, and I had some memorabilia. So this guy's walking around going to give me a quote, and he sees this ball that I have signed by Greg Luzinski.
Right.
So all of a sudden, the price goes down of the quote, as long as I include the ball. Such a
right.
big fan of Luzinski that he was going to take the ball in exchange for some of the profit that he was making on this.
Right.
We never got it done by this. That was a little strange for me.
Right.
But he's another guy. I mean, a big guy that I mean, just a basher. That's for sure.
Sure. Absolutely.
And of course, we always have to bring in the famous Harry Callis when we talk about Philadelphia baseball.
That's the sound of summer for me growing up. And I just, to this day, I miss him so much. I mean, that's just, that to me, that's the sound of summer. It was like almost like a meditation app for your phone or something. His voice was just so soothing and so comforting. And the fact that he died just almost immediately after the World Series.
That's right.
It almost just seemed like he was waiting for permission in a weird way.
I can still hear him say, Michael Jack Smith.
Yeah. Deep long drive, it balls out of here. Yeah, swinging a long drive. I mean, that's his.
Yeah, he was amazing. I played one time in an all-star game at the Vet, and this is a strange situation because you go there and you can sort of put yourself in the place of watching some games on TV. Now,
sure.
I always have this picture of Pete Rose after the third out bouncing the ball off the turf.
Right.
And it would go about 30 feet in the air.
Yeah, because of that horrible turf.
When I played there, first of all, it was like walking on the moon.
Right.
Because you bounced. You didn't run, you bounced.
Right. I've stepped on that turf before.
I remember doing some sprints in center field, and I just started looking around for the black spots.
Right.
Because Nails was in center field playing, and he always had a chaw in his mouth. And
Lenny.
That's when he could tell where he played by the tobacco spit on the ground. I
still have at my parents' house a VHS of that '93 season. Whatever It Takes, Dude, was the name of that tape. That's talk about a cast of characters. Lenny Dykstra is definitely a character.
Oh, absolutely. And I knew him as a Met, but when he went to Philadelphia, he was much bigger. So
a lot of people forget that he was a Met.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people forget Halladay was a Blue Jay, and in fact played more baseball as a Blue Jay than as a Philly.
That's right. That was so sad.
Sad. Extremely.
So, what other players?
Oh man, I got a good story for you. So in 2009, I had just graduated college, and I was working at Third and Arch in Philly, which is an old bank, and it's been a million things like an MTV Real World House, a bunch of stuff. But at the time that I worked there, it was an art gallery, and I was maybe an intern there, so maybe I was still in college. Long story short, there was to be an SBCA fundraiser to be held there with a bunch of celebrities. I didn't really know who it was going to be. And so my boss pulls me aside and said, listen, I need you to kind of be like the public liaison for this event. I need you to bring people in, yada, 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 and show them where everything is before this gets started next week. And lo and behold, who comes in to kind of tour the place, of course, with his involvement with the SBCA was Chase Utley. And Chase Utley said, hey, Ben, how you doing? Shakes my hand, looks him in the eye. And I kind of show him around the place. And 3 hours later, when the event starts, he comes back and says, hey, Ben, I'd like you to meet my wife. He had remembered my name.
Wow.
And it was the entire 2008 Phillies team about a month before the World Series, or maybe 2 months before. So I got to meet Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, Greg, what was his name? He was backup third baseman. Greg, God, I forget his name, shorter guy. Jamie Moyer, So Taguchi, that entire team from front to bottom. And I got to talk with Jimmy Rollins for about a half an hour.
Was Lieberthal there?
What was that?
Lieberthal, was he catching then?
Mike Lieberthal was, God, no, I guess it was Chooch.
Yeah.
And it would have been Carlos. Although Lieberthal might have been the backup catcher at that point. I think there was a time when they were both playing together. I forget.
My folks live out near Reading, and I used to go see the Reading Phillies every week.
Of course, yeah.
Saw Mike Lieberthal in the minors, and you could tell from the arm that he had.
Yeah.
He's going to be a major leaguer someday.
I got to watch Burrell at Reading before he came up, and I'm trying to think a few other players, but I remember Pat Burrell before he got to the majors as well.
Yeah, it's a great place to see a game, too.
Oh, my gosh, it's the best. And I got to meet Larry Anderson there as well, and a few other people. And then I used to go to the Scranton Wilkes-Barre games for the Red Barons before they switched over to the Yankees farm system.
Right. Well, we're running out of time, unfortunately. We've had great experience talking to Ben Runyan.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And maybe we'll do this again because we got a lot to talk about